Hey everybody, welcome to the Herd Fit Podcast with Dr. Sam Rhee and myself, Coach David Syvertsen. This podcast is aimed at helping anyone and everyone looking to enhance their healthy lifestyle through fitness, nutrition, and most importantly, mindset.
All right, welcome back to the Herd Fit Podcast. I am Coach David Syvertsen. I'm here with my co-host, Dr. and Coach Sam Rhee. Back just the two of us. We have the next Bison Q&A. We actually have 2 questions today instead of 3. And we are going to dive into both of them. We'll talk about 10 to 15 minutes. These are also questions that have come from you guys, and we always like to get some feedback from you, whether it's in the comments section on YouTube, or you find us at the gym and you want to give us some kind of feedback, agreement, disagreement with what we said. It's always fun to kind of hear feedback on these particular situations, because at the end of the day, we don't have facts for answers here. We just have our opinions, and the opinions come from a lot of experience, both as coaches and as athletes. But we do like to get feedback, especially on these episodes, on these questions, these Q&As. So the first one: should CrossFit benchmark workouts have judges? And what CrossFit benchmark workouts we are talking about are the girl workouts, and this has recently come up here at CrossFit Bison because we're going through a run of the girl workouts. Obviously, we're not doing all of them. But we're doing at least one per week, 1 or 2 per week. And we have, I think, another 2-3 weeks of it. And these are workouts that we see at least once per year, right? Your typical, your Fran, your Grace, your Elizabeth, Diane, Kelly, which is such a long one. I'm going to try to program that when I'm on vacation. But these are workouts that I would say they're on the more serious side of what we do. They're not just a normal programmed workout. These are workouts that have been around for, now like 15, 16 years. And when I go back into Beast of Bison and I search Fran, there's 11 different whiteboard pictures that we can look back on, which is always fun to do. But when you repeat these workouts, and because it's a performance-centered goal, meaning you're going to try to beat your time, or you simply just want to see where you stack up compared to the rest of the gym, or where you were 5 to 10 years ago, whether you like that result or not, To really legitimize your score, you need someone else doing the counting. And you could even say judging. And we're going to bring up Fran as an example. But before we get into Fran as that example, Sam, if an athlete came up to you and said, hey, we're doing Elizabeth tomorrow and we're doing Diane on Wednesday, we should have judges, what's your first response?
Well, logistically, that sort of changes how you have to deal with things. And we do set up judges, especially for open prep. And I know when you program them, you set up a workout so that you can judge someone and then they can judge you for that workout.
Yep.
And if that workout lends itself to that, and if the class size is reasonable, I would love that. Personally, I would love that. I think logistically is always the issue.
Yeah. For example, we're doing Elizabeth tomorrow, which is 21:15.9 of squat cleans at 135.95 with ring dips. All right. So it's a relatively short workout, not as short as Fran, but people can do it in 5-6 minutes. And then I think we have a 12-minute cap on it. But prior to that, we've been doing some thruster complex work. So we have a squat clean thruster, hang squat clean thruster, and then a hang squat clean. And that is geared at 2 things. Yes, trying to get a little extra work in, get some barbell strength in work in, but also it's a great way to prep for the workout. It really gets, instead of just telling people to get ready for squat cleans after, a cliche warm-up, that's going to really get people ready. All right, we did that before Fran, and it makes that bar feel light when you start off. But you have to, if you're going to do 2 heats in a class, that's my first thought too, is you have to knock out part 1. And the issue is you also have someone standing around for 8 to 12 minutes, and now you're going to have to hurry up and get ready for the next heat, which is what we do a lot throughout heats and Bison benchmark workouts. But that was my first response after Fran, when someone said we should do judges for benchmark workouts. And there's a huge part of me that agrees, but the other part of me was like, all right, well, we would have had to take out the lifting prior to. And what's more important, getting real Fran scores on a whiteboard, or really properly training people? Let them lift, get them warmed up. Don't have anyone standing around, and maybe even end class with 10 minutes left so people can stretch out, roll out, socialize a little bit. When you're doing a 2-heat workout, you've been there coaching before, it's like, hey, we got to go. Hurry up. We constantly feel like you're in a rushed, stressed out kind of mindset. So that logistically you could say it probably does not make sense for a fitness-based gym. We do perform, we do write down your scores, we do care about your Fran score, but we want people to come here for fitness. Let's talk about the other side of the coin. Why would you want to have a judge on a workout like Fran?
Well, because I saw a lot of people doing Fran this past time. That's why. And I would say this, when you yourself are really focused on getting the best time, and that is what a lot of what these the focus of these workouts is like you said, they are benchmarks. We are measuring from year to year, and you are really pushing yourself. If you choose to, and if you do choose to, maybe you're not hitting the right height on your chin over bar on the push-ups. Maybe you're not fully locking out on the thrusters, because listen, the pro athletes do this too. When you're really pushing yourself in a workout, you may not even realize that you're not hitting the standard. Mm-hmm. And when you do that, you have a time that you are so proud of, but you don't even realize. It's not intentional. I don't think a lot of the people that I've been watching are intentionally shorting these movements. They are just trying to push as hard as they can. But then you're like, yeah, but you know what? That is not a legit score for you. Right. And it's really hard as a coach to be able to say that, or even honestly to write that time up on the whiteboard. And so you would be helping the athlete by saying, here's your judge, you're meeting standards, this is legitimate, mm-hmm. and this is really what your score is. And then they can take that to the bank as real information for them, not just some kind of like make-up information.
Right. And you could even say this actually helps the athlete long-term to have a judge and to have another set of eyes on them for this reason alone. If I did Fran this past time, and let's say it's my first time ever doing it, and my time was 5:05, right? But those, I had a lot of kind of crappy reps in there because I didn't have a judge. I didn't squat all the way down. I didn't understand the whole lockout. Maybe my chin wasn't getting over the bar because I was trying to go so fast. Now let's fast forward to next year, and I've really worked on my quality movement. I am fitter. I am better. I move better. But now I have a judge again. Now I know standards. Now I am squatting below parallel. I'm getting my chin clearly above. I'm clearly locking out my elbow with a pause and control the top. And now my time is 5:20. Your initial stance is going to be like, I guess you got slower after all that work. But really, because you had bad judging or no judging that first time through, all right, that first score is it's illegitimate. It's not a real score because there's cheating. There wasn't range of motion involved in there. Where if you have a judge, you know, especially a fair judge, you know that, hey, no matter what your score is, it's a real score because you hit the movements. And I think that's a huge problem with kind of the back and forth nature of having judges. Now, you do have some personal accountability, and coach, you have some responsibility as well. Hey, you're not squatting below parallel, but hey, they might be 13 thrusters into the set of 21. You didn't get to see all of them. So there is a personal responsibility that you try to hit those standards and know what they are. But that's where I think it actually can do a disservice and to the athlete long term, that if you don't have judging and then all of a sudden you have judging, or this athlete doesn't know movement, now they all of a sudden do know movement, then a year later, they didn't actually get worse, but that number on the whiteboard is worse. And it can really kind of, it sounds elementary, but I do think that can dampen someone's mood of themselves, their outlook of themselves, the work that they've put in. And even those that say they, quote, don't care that much about scores, when they see something slower than what they've previously done, it stings. And I think having a judge can really help out. Do you remember when we had that Laurent scoreboard?
Yeah.
Where we did girl workouts? We did Karen, we did Fran, we did, I think, Diane, and we made athletes. Since we were writing your name on an all-time leaderboard, mm-hmm. which we were going to keep up, we took it down eventually. Mm-hmm. Those scores, CrossFit Hoboken had this, right? You have every girl workout on a whiteboard, mm-hmm. and the best all-time scores are always up there. It was like a really cool thing. I thought I liked the idea back then.
A lot of gyms do it.
Yeah. I just don't know how, but to me, they're not real scores unless you have a judge. So I actually just got done talking with Alex about this prior to Open Gym today, is that, I've always wanted to kind of do this at Bison. We're like, hey, here's a monthly challenge, guys. 1 year we did 60 cal bike for time, if we remember when the whole gym did that. Another one would be like, 10 muscle ups, 20 cal bike, 10 muscle ups. How fast can you? Just a very short, simple, competitive, hey, let's have some fun. Here's a challenge. But I told him, I was like, but I don't want to go down that path because I don't want anyone reporting a score without a judge. And that's where I think the legitimacy of a real result that keeps coming up over and over, and we say this all the time at the Open, it's not a real result unless it's in a competition setting. And I hate to say that, but that is the truth because we don't know if you counted correctly, if you hit the standards correctly. So I can see why. Now, should Bison do that? What do you think?
As an athlete, I would say no, and only because from a health and fitness, not a performance aspect, for a health and fitness aspect, it's better from the workout perspective not to do it. For example, like you said, for Monday, we're doing Elizabeth 21:59 squat cleans, ring dips, and it's at 135.95. And so if you asked me to judge someone and then to go right into it, I'd be like, I'm not going to really chase a lot of intensity because I'm not going to go wait 10 minutes and then suddenly, try to kill those reps. So the fact that you have programmed squat clean thruster, hang squat clean thruster, one hang squat clean for multiple sets, I'm warming up. Right. I'm starting to feel how my body is moving. Right. And then when I go to to Elizabeth, I'll be like, okay, I now know what I can do. I can do the 135. I can go this intensity. I know how I'm feeling, and I feel better because of it. And so as a class, for me as a coach, for my athletes, I want them to go through that first part, right, so they can really chase the second part, the girl workout, with some intensity.
Agreed.
So that always, I think, trumps to a certain degree the fact, how legitimate is that Elizabeth number going to be? Right. I don't know. Right. But I want my athletes to be healthy and to feel good when they hit that workout.
This is classic pro and con discussion. There's pros and cons to both sides. And, other than something that is a documented competition, right, you don't need judges. Now, we've done that for Bison benchmark workouts, and we haven't done one in a while. I'm sure we'll do one at some point. But here's another issue. You have to keep all of them short. There's a girl workout. It's called Kelly. I don't want to get this wrong. I think it's 5 rounds for time, a 400-meter run, 30 wall balls, 30 box jumps. It might be box jumps, wall balls. But it is a workout that almost no one finishes when we program at the gym. It's like a 25-minute cap, and you have maybe 15 to 20% actually finish. You can't do that one in 2 heats. It's impossible. So what do? Do you not do that workout? I think it's a great workout. It's a great test of fitness. You do it once a year. But if you don't, but you can't do that twice in a class. It would be impossible, right? So, it's now you're going to go down the line of, do you pick and choose certain workouts to do judges and pick and choose certain ones not to do that? I'm gonna err on this side. I think unless it's a documented benchmark workout for the gym or the Open, like a competition type setting, I think we're going to have to just rely on personal accountability and a good coach walking around and just making sure, like, hey, you got to squat lower in your next rep. Hey, you're not hitting the target. You're not hitting the range of motion, and then just kind of leave it at that point.
When you go on vacation, when you program Kelly, I'm going on vacation too, because running, box jumps, and wall balls are the 3 kryptonite for me. That would suck. And I don't want my coach to sit there all day being like, oh my God, this guy's never going to finish this thing.
I will say I am going to give a partner version. So you can do the work. I'm going to say, hey, do Kelly or do Kelly with a partner of your choice, but you have to run every time. So you basically split the inside reps.
And I think you're right. I think if you are training your athletes to meet standards all the time, hopefully that sticks for when they do the girl workouts. Yep. And if not, I think it means for all of us, really, it's a work in progress. So maybe I notice someone's not really hitting the pull-ups to standard on Fran. Then on our next pull-up workouts, and when we do that, I'm really going to work with that athlete and make sure that at least they're aware of where they are with their standards. I might not interrupt them right in the middle of Fran, but I will take a note of it as a coach, and I will continue to see what I can do to help them so that they do get better. Like you said, the beginner, when they first start, really hard to know where their body is in relationship to the bar and what's going on. Right. And so you're right. The process of meeting standards is not just for that workout. It's a preparation all the way up until that workout for months and months and months.
Yeah. So last thing to wrap this one up is athletes, your responsibility is going to be this. You have to kind of take all results on the whiteboard with a grain of salt, and you have to try to not get too competitive. And in time, you will learn what scores to trust and which ones not to. And, for an example, if you see someone up there that put up a 225 and hey, that athlete doesn't move that well, they don't squat, they don't lock out, they don't get the chin above, then you have to ignore it. You could say something to a coach if you want. We get that all the time.
Videos even.
Yes. But we also, at the same time, for every one of those, you probably have 5 to 10 people in the gym that you really, you trust those scores. You can, if you want to compete, if you feel you need to compete to get the most out of yourself in a Fran type workout, then go after those people. Have your little battle with them. But this is where we are a group fitness gym, and I think we have to take care of the class more than the individuals, because at the end of the day, the only people that truly care about what other people's scores are to the point where you think you need to reconstruct the entire class to get judges are the ones that are ultra uber competitive. And we can't make plans around just those people. Question number 2, last one. How do I know when and how to scale? Really, really big topic. We could probably talk way too long on this. We're not going to. But I do think we can give you some preliminary answers. We get this question a lot as coaches. And a lot of times it comes from newer athletes. This question came from a newer athlete, just started CrossFit, and hey, how do I know when I should be scaling? And how do I scale? And I'm going to bring up the whiteboard talk. I'm huge on this. We've done discussions on this multiple times, that if you're somewhat new to CrossFit, I think if you're a CrossFitter, you got to be at that whiteboard talk. Have to be. Don't show up after. I know, and hey, certain circumstances happen, traffic, this, blah, blah. For the most of your workouts, you got to be there before that whiteboard talk starts, even for the experienced athletes. But especially if you're new, a good coach will talk about the workout. They talk about the scaling options, but then they also touch on like the stimulus of the workout. So tomorrow, 21, 15, 9, squat cleans at 135, ring dips. One of the things that I'll say to my classes is that barbell should be something you can do consistent singles on. You don't need to go touch and go, but you also don't want it to be something where you're doing a rep and you need a 20-second rest. Like, you have to be able to move well through that. And then I'll even touch on a percentage, like, hey, this probably should not be more than 70% of your clean. That's just going to get way too hard, way too slow. The workout is 90 reps. It's a 12-minute workout. Hey, if you're 8 reps a minute, you're going to be in a good spot. So if you want to relate that to the barbell, could I do a rep every 8 seconds? Like that. And like, that is where I think a good coach can help answer this question. That's not the end, though. That's not the end of, the coach will tell me what to scale and how to scale. If you are overly relying on that, I think you're in trouble at a CrossFit class, especially if you come to gyms that have big classes. I think every day, for as long as you do CrossFit, you should be putting thought into your workout prior to you getting there. Dave, I don't look at the workouts prior to getting there. Okay, fine. Show up a little early if you can and lock yourself in. You see the workout, you have to immediately start thinking about what can you do, what's the point of the workout, what's the stimulus. And then if you still have questions, you ask them. But this is where I'm huge on there. It needs to be independence with CrossFitters. You can't always be told what to do. You'll be told what to do if you keep asking questions, but I actually think you're going to lose out on something for yourself. What's your initial thought on this?
Coach guideline, whiteboard talk is essential. They have studied this workout for you, and they will know what the stimulus is. If you do, and it makes a big difference. If you're doing a workout that has 3 handstand push-ups per round, or you're doing one that has 30 in a row like we did last week,
Thursday, yeah.
Like, your scale is going to be very different, or how you approach your scale. Is it a 30-minute workout or 25? Is it a 10? So your coach, like you said, has numbers. They're going to have percentages. They're going to have the thoughts about stimulus, which, listen, I know even you should think about the workout beforehand, but you might not be considering all of these factors. Mm-hmm. That being said, yes, you have to know yourself. And as an athlete, I will be looking at the workout usually for days, unfortunately. Like a lot of people, like, oh my God, what am I going to do with this workout? What am I going to do with this workout?
Yeah.
And some of it is I have ranges. So I might think, okay, If I'm feeling really good, I might go 135.
Yeah.
But if I'm not feeling good, I might go 115. I don't know sometimes until I hear the coach, I think about the stimulus, I start warming up, I start, maybe the day before I just did something really heavy, or, maybe I'm still working on my hip flexor because it's a little bit sore. And so I will warm up. And more often than not, I will sit there and be like, this is not bad. I can do this, or I can't. I think you as an athlete, and I always say this as a coach, we don't know how you're feeling or what you're doing. We only can see what's on the outside. But on the outside, it's really hard to tell, is your knee a little sore? Are you not feeling so awesome? Did you go out last night? Like, I know you, but I don't know you the way you know yourself. And so you're going to have to trust yourself, and that takes time and experience to figure out, how you're going to approach the movement and what kind of scale you're going to do.
Yeah, especially with something as simple as a wall ball, right? And this is one that I see a lot of newer athletes struggle with the scale. Like when I do wall balls with beginners, strong or weak, I usually start them with a 6 or 10 pound ball. And sometimes they kind of like look at me like, dude, this is it. I'm like, bro, you got to be like, do 20, 30 in a row, like with your heart rate high and your arms already tired. And what happens a lot, and I think this is where a lot of athletes, and I think we could do a better job as coaches with this, is it's one thing to be capable of doing a certain movement, all right, a muscle up, a wall walk, or a weight, a 135 pound squat clean, a 95 pound thruster. It's one thing to be able to do it. It's another thing to be able to do multiple reps in a row to hit the stimulus of the workout, right? Like I'll often talk at the whiteboard about like, hey guys, wall balls, it's only 9 at a time this past Friday. You should be doing them unbroken every time. You shouldn't be capable of doing a few wall balls. You should be doing 9 in a row every time. If you fall apart at the end, guys, okay, I get it, you're tired. But if you're in the first half of the workout and you're breaking these things up, yes, I know you're capable of doing that heavy wall ball, but because you're breaking it up, you're missing kind of the point of the workout. Or this happens even more often, especially with newer people and squatting in general, is that the range of motion starts to lessen. Like you do a 95 pound thruster, you could do one, you hit the bottom of your squat, but the second you start getting tired, all right, you start to lose integrity in your joints, your muscles, you start going halfway. And now, you in your head, you're thinking, man, I'm doing a 95 pound thruster, but it's really what you're doing is a push press. And that's something where the coach has that watchful eye, but I'm still trying to think in my head, what are ways that we can get that message across respectfully, of saying just because you can do a few doesn't mean you should do the workout with that. So when you start CrossFit, I get jealous of sometimes someone starting CrossFit right now. It's like you're starting from scratch. You shouldn't put yourself on any sort of timeline or expectation level of performance early on. The goal is to hit the standard with lightweight all the time, every time. And that if you get through that battle, you make a mental note, some people journal. Now my next step is next time I see that wall ball, I'm going from 10, I'm going up to the 12 pounder. If I do it again, I get through another wall ball workout, okay, maybe I'm ready for the 14. Don't start off at the 20 just because you can do a few. Let's prove to yourself you can get through a whole workout. And hey, if it's too easy, you know what Dave's answer is going to be. Go faster on everything else. Like seriously, that's the answer. There is no such thing as too light. It does not exist, especially in fitness, right? You're here to work out. So you see this as a coach a lot too, Sam, right? People, they start pushing the weight, the movement quality goes down, but they still got the lift. What kind of habit can that set up for someone down the road?
Injury. I mean, you're going to get injured. I saw that with two of the guys doing I think it was the split squats that we did this past week.
Okay.
And it got really hard, and they were starting, the hip planes weren't level and they weren't moving well. And I just stripped a lot of weight off, and I said, this is really where we need to be. And both of them were coachable. Mm-hmm. Like they were two partners together.
Okay.
And they did a great job focusing on, equal engagement of their quads and their glutes for the front leg and the back leg. And they really worked on that. Mm-hmm. And so there's that side of it where if you have a coach, you got to be coachable in terms of knowing when they're giving you those recommendations. On the alternative side, I've seen you and Liz. I think you two are the best at this, looking at someone and saying, I think you can go up.
Yeah,
Like
right.
you've been doing 15 pound or like 10 pounds. You should probably try the 12-pound wall
Right.
ball.
Yeah.
I haven't gotten to that point where I know people as well or am as talented at that, but I do see you guys also doing that. And I've also seen some athletes who, like, honestly, my daughter Sasha, we did a workout yesterday, and she said, you know what? I'm going to do 25 pounds instead of 20-pound dumbbell snatches today.
On the dumbbell, yeah.
Yeah, and I was like, great.
Yeah.
And I knew she could do 25. I've
Right.
seen her before, but I would never tell her.
So know what I like about that, and this is not by design. I'm not pumping myself up here. At the whiteboard, I said this would be a good day that if you want to try a heavier dumbbell, and again, that's what every coach can do. It's not a gift. You're not like, hey, you're only doing 10 dumbbell snatches. Coaches, how many snatches do we normally do in workouts? It's like more than 10 usually at a time, or it really piles up in volume. You know, the girl's going to do 60 snatches today, spread out over 30 minutes. This is a good day to try 10 at a time. Hey guys, if you've always been using 20 and you feel good, this is the day to try 25.
That's right.
And a lot of people did go heavier on the dumbbell yesterday. And now she knows, and Sasha's smart. She'll have a recall. Hey, I have the 25-pound dumbbell in my bag now.
So that was a combination of the coach's whiteboard talk plus her assessing herself and knowing herself and then figuring out what to scale to.
Yep. And that's where there's a lot of kind of like, I always call coaching athletes a 50-50 relationship. You can't expect 60-40, 70-30. It's got to be 50-50. You got to do your half. And I'm talking to the coaches too, not just the athletes there. So here's one that I struggle with as a coach, right? I'm comfortable with the weight stuff. Gymnastics scaling, especially with someone that has a goal of really getting to a high level of gymnastics, meaning they can RX everything. You know, ring muscle-ups, bar muscle-ups, handstand push-ups, strict handstand push-ups, toes to bar, chest to bar. But they're not there. They don't have the basics yet. They don't have the regular pull-up yet. They don't have the strict pull-up yet. They don't have the strict handstand push-up yet. How can an athlete that wants to get there, that is not currently close to that level, how do they know what movements to do when they scale? Example, again, I love bringing up tomorrow's workout. Plan this properly. Ring dips, really tough movement. As a coach, I see more people struggle with real ring dips, by the way, like real full range of motion, than I do strict handstand push-ups. Like, I think they're harder. I really do. So, and you can say they're a little bit more dangerous too, because the rings are moving, so you got to be really careful and not go to failure on them. That's going to be kind of like a rule for everyone tomorrow. Like, don't go to failure on ring dips. It's just not a good idea. If I want to get ring dips, and Coach Kayla sent our coaches a lot of great scaling options, and she's coaching tomorrow morning, actually. She's going to use them. I'm going to use them. Other coaches are like, thanks, I'm stealing that, right? Some people want to do the box dips. Some people want to do the knee push-ups with your forearm vertical. There's a lot of different ways. Dave, this is too overwhelming. What am I supposed to do? I thought banded ring dips were going to get me to ring dips. What's your response to that, Coach? Tough one.
I know. I think, Brian used Kayla's progressions last week for his class, and I thought they were perfect. He said, you need to try different stimuli in order to get to ring dips. The banded ring dip gives you one stimulus, but if you do a pop-up slow negative, that's also giving you a slightly different one.
Yep.
And so as an athlete, you have to sort of look at yourself and say, which one is helping me get, like, where is my struggle, right? Yeah. Is it like getting to the top? Is it like the stability? Is it, and so the fact that he offered all of the ones that Kayla had sent us really helped us in the warm-up, and it helped people sort of figure out, well, no, I banded is the way for me to go, or maybe I need to do the negatives. Maybe I need to do it on a box. So it's never this is the one way. Like, coaches are giving you lots of different ways to work on your weaknesses and how you can eventually get to that movement.
Yeah, it's a great idea to just change up your scales. Like, what movements? Like, obviously, you're not going to, if you're trying to scale squat cleans, you're going to scale the weight. You're not going to scale the movement, right? But ring dips and muscle-ups and pull-ups, one of my lines that I always like to use is don't always scale the same way. So if you want to use the bands, there is value, all right? But you shouldn't always be using the bands, because it's literally, especially with pull-ups and dips, it's basically erasing any sort of training of the bottom of the rep, the start of the rep, all right? Visualize yourself hanging from a pull-up bar with a band around your foot. So when you're at the bottom of your rep, there's the most amount of resistance on the band, so it's going to help propel you up. And then as you get closer to the bar, the band helps you less. You really have to finish off that pull yourself. However, you're never training the first 2-3 inches of that pull. The band's doing most of the work. And that is usually where most of you are the weakest, that can't do a pull-up or the chest bar or the muscle-up. It's the initial pull. And now you're never training the initial pull. You might feel like everyone else because you're on a pull-up bar, and I do think there's value in the vertical pulling motion and activating the lats and doing that right way. But that's why I say ring rows are probably a better way to get stronger. They don't look as cool, but they're probably... But hey, if you want to go for the vertical pull, what my line is, every day, just switch it up. Last time I did band, this time I'm doing rings. You know, with ring dips, so Caleb set out all those new scales. Like, try different ones out because, A, you might find one that's a great scale for you, but it's going to train different elements of that actual movement. So when you scale, like, hey, Dave, how do I scale this? Don't just think about the range of motion of like, hey, I'm at the top of a ring, going down and pushing myself back up. Think about the stability at the top, the stability at the bottom, the actual pushing motion, and try to find different ways to put yourself in those different positions. And that usually requires different scales. But I do think you have to circle back to, if this is getting too complicated for you, scaling 101, there's two things you need to do. You got to hit the range of motion. You got to do the full movement as often as you can. Pull-ups, lock out your elbows, bend them. All right, get your chin over something, whatever finish that pull. Handstand push-ups, right? Get your head and hands on the same plane, lock it out at the top. Find ways to hit that range of motion. And then B is hit the stimulus. You know, if a coach says you got to scale to something that you can do 2 to 3 reps of in a row, we have a strict handstand push-up workout coming out, and it goes 3 strict pull-up, 2 strict handstand push-up, and then a clean, right? I'm going to say those strict handstand push-ups need to be done unbroken for most of the workout. So like now you have two things. I'm going for range of motion so that's where maybe the dumbbell press would come in for a lot of you, because you're going to do 2 unbroken reps every single time, full range of motion. That's how I'm eventually going to get there. So to wrap up scaling and how do I know when and how to scale, all right, lean on the coach, all right? You can definitely lean on them, ask them questions, but put a lot of thought into it yourself, hit your range of motion, and understand the stimulus of the workout, and be open to trying new things. Sam, any closing thoughts?
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Thanks, guys. See you next week.
Thank you, everybody, for taking the time out of your day to listen to the Herd Fit podcast. Be on the lookout for next week's episode.